everyone, this is Nikki from the design team. I'm at Nikki Hearts Cards on all social media. Today we're going to be looking at beach scenes. So a lot of us don't have any dyes or anything to create the beach scene except white paper and ink. And so I'm going to show you an easy way to create the background of this card. I'll show you brief little details on some things that I did with the die cuts to make them really stand out, but we're going to focus on how we do that beach backdrop. We're going to be using as the main focus of our card today this die, which is called Lovely Layers Beach Bound. And I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple, just using colored cardstock to create that little cute van. So we'll start with this van all assembled, and you'll see here that I have my plain white piece of paper. That plain white piece of paper is good for ink blending. It's Bristol Smooth, and I'm going to use this van to kind of decide where I'm going to mask on this paper. So I'm trying to decide, where do I want the sand to start and where do I want the actual sunrise or sunset behind the van. You could do this straight down the middle. I feel like it gives it a I don't know, just a better look to kind of have it not quite at the center. That is possible that you can do it however you want, but I tend to mask just slightly above center, like that beach is a little bit taller, and then that sunset is going to be kind of behind the back windows of the van. And I'm just kind of putting loosely things I'm going to use on this card to make sure that everything fits. I can't stress that enough. When you're trying to create a scene and you're going to be doing a lot of ink blending, you want to make sure that whatever scene you've got ready fits the way you want it to on the card before you start laying down the ink. Now I'm using masking paper on this, which is kind of like just a full sticky Post-it note. If you've got Post-it notes, you could easily use those as well. I've stuck this down, and one other thing that I do is I love to look at how this fits and make sure that it's level. So I tend to use my grid mat on the back to make sure that I've got things level, and go ahead and stick it down. So we're going to start with our sunset. I'm going to be using Catching Rays and just a circular motion. I know where my middle of my card is, and I'm going to create the yellow like the sun is setting right here. So no dyes, nothing, just kind of using my ink blending to create the colors that I'm hoping for. Masking paper, Post-it notes, you're going to get ink on them. You just need a good stick at that horizon line where your beach is going to meet your sunset to make sure that you get a nice clean line. And now notice too that I tend to grab more ink and then start off on the masking paper. That's why the masking paper is so much darker there, because I'm rubbing a little ink just to make sure I don't get big blobs of ink on my project. So if you take ink directly with your brush and touch this paper, a lot of times you kind of get the shape of your brush in that ink blending, and it makes a spot that you have to really work hard to blend out. So we're going with our next color, which is a more coral color. It's called Bellini. And this is kind of just like following a rainbow. So we're kind of doing an arch, making it almost like a rainbow, because in my imagination, that sun is right in the middle behind our car. And then we're going to go out with our colors. So this is kind of like a coral light orange that I'm using. The yellow that I used was kind of a yellow orange for the base of the sun. And then you can go back in and you can add extra. So I know I want my sun to be nice and bright, but I'm getting my general area, and I'm also mixing the color with the edge of the Bellini that I just did. It's always nice to kind of overlap your colors. It just makes for a smoother look. All right, so last I'm going with Do-Si-Do, which is a more pink color. So we've kind of gone yellow, orange, a little corally orange, and now we're going with a more pink color to have definite changes in that nice sunset. And I'm going to bring the pink in. I want my edges to be a little bit darker and then fade towards the middle. I always love to do that. So I'm just bringing this pink around the edges, and then we'll touch it up. We're going to make it as dark as we can. We'll touch up that middle Bellini layer, and we'll touch up everything just to keep making it as dark as we can, because if you know my style of cards, I tend to go darker and bolder on my colors, and I just love color. So that's one of those things that I love to do. So I'm going to speed up this part, just adding that extra color, making sure I can see my oranges, my yellows, and my pinks, and that they are distinct from each other, even though in a way they blend together. I just really love that. And then let me show you this reveal. And you're always a little concerned. Did I go past the masking paper? Did it stay aligned like it was supposed to? Let's see what happens. So I'm going to lift it off carefully. Yes, made a perfect line. I love it when that happens. So now we need to create our sand, and I'm going to use that same piece of masking paper to do that. It's one thing I love about masking paper is you can just kind of flip it over, use the same edge, and line it up. I'm using my grid mat on the back, but I'm also making sure that I don't leave a little white gap in between. So I'm getting it as close to that color as possible and sticking it on evenly. So I have to remove a little bit of adhesive here and get that taken care of. And then it's nice and even. And you'll notice that before, even though I was using masking paper, I was using my sticky mat to hold it on. But in this case, I decided I'd go ahead and remove that because I don't have a whole lot of area that this is sticking to. Below, I had the bottom. So I went on and removed that adhesive. And we're going to start with buttercream, which is kind of like a cream color. This is going to be the base of our sand. And then we're going to do some fun techniques to create more dimension in that sand, and I think you're going to love it. Okay, to create the sandy look, you could go in and draw with a white pen. You could add some other dark highlights. I am going to use some leftover plastic, and we're going to do some ink smooshing. So I've got this plastic packaging that I have here. I'm going to add sandcastle to my mat and a little bit of water. Now, you can do this any way that's possible. I'm just guarding and doing a little bit of spray water on top of the ink. That could be dangerous if you really have trouble with that. Then you can always grab like a paintbrush and just put water on top of it. So I'm just wadding up this plastic and I'm trying to keep this kind of light. So I'm tapping off on different areas and adding that dimension to my sand. So just a piece of plastic, adding what kind of dimension I want. You can always let it dry a little bit and then decide if you want to go back in with more. I liked this kind of light look and just kept adding till I felt comfortable that we had enough dimension. So it's really fun to do this. I don't know why it's so exciting, but it is really fun to use that plastic and like kind of tap on your project. So lots of fun dimension. And ta-da, look at how beautiful that is. It turned out so good. It's going to look adorable. You do need to let it dry a little bit because you were using water on the bottom. And you could go back in and add white splatters or anything else you want. But look at how cute this little guy's going to look. So let's put this card together and we'll be done with our easy beach scenes. I have a couple little quick tips that really made this card stand out. So the surfboard in this set has like an impression in it. And so I took my gel pen and I went along these lines to kind of highlight what that was because you weren't really seeing it very well when you looked at the card. And when I added this white lining, it really made it show up so much better. So I'm going to show you a couple things that I did to it just to make sure that if you were wondering how I made that look so bright and exciting, this is how I did it. So I finished those white lines. I let that dry a second, and then I went around the edges of the surfboard to give it kind of that spotlight effect with a color that's very similar to the cardstock. And I'm using the new detail blending brushes. These are so nice just to add kind of a line of color around things and use it in small areas. So I'm using Catherine Pooler Samba is the color, and I'm just going around the edges. I did this same idea with the palm tree as well, but I'm not going to show that. Let me show you the final card and how awesome this looks. I did add the sentiment from Sunkissed Summer, and it says Happy Summertime. I feel like this could work for a lot of things. Happy Summertime, you could put in there also Happy Birthday, but just such a cute card to brighten somebody's day. Okay, so here is the final look of this card. I just love how that background really makes everything else awesome on this card stand out. You just cannot get over how cute that little van is. So I'm so glad that you guys hung in here with me today, and I hope you enjoyed this simple tutorial on creating beach backgrounds. I am Nikki of Nikki Hearts Cards. Find me out on social media for lots more honeybee inspiration. Have a great day. Bye.